Welcome to A Year of War and Peace. I'm your host, Brian E. Denton. A Year of War and Peace is a daily, year-long, chapter-by-chapter reading of and meditation on Leo Tolstoy's epic novel, War and Peace. In these videos and podcasts, you'll be treated to a free reading of one chapter per day of the novel, plus a reflective essay I've written individually tailored to that day's chapter. These readings are offered for free, though if you'd like to support me, you can do so in one of three ways. First, you could purchase my ebook, A Year of War and Peace. It features the entire novel, plus all of my reflective essays, and it's only $2.99 on Amazon.com. You could also become a patron at patreon.com/BrianEDenton. If you sign up there, you'll receive a sonnet once a month, plus a link to an ebook of my collected sonnets. Finally, if you like, you can make a one-time donation to my PayPal account. The email there is brianedenton@gmail.com. You can also use that email to contact me. I'd be happy to hear from you. Your support is greatly appreciated. Today's reading and reflection is on Chapter 213. Chapter 213. On the 25th of August, so historians tell us, Napoleon spent the whole day on horseback inspecting the locality, considering plans submitted to him by his marshals, and personally giving commands to his generals. The original line of the Russian forces along the river Kolochha had been dislocated by the capture of the Shevardino redoubt on the 24th, and part of the line, the left flank, had been drawn back. That part of the line was not yet entrenched, and in front of it the ground was more open and level than anywhere. It was evident to anyone, military or not, that it was here the French should attack. It would seem that not so much consideration was needed to reach this conclusion, nor any particular care or trouble on the part of the emperor and his marshals, nor was there any need of that special and supreme quality called genius that people are so apt to ascribe to Napoleon. Yet the historians who described the event later, and the men who then surrounded Napoleon, and he himself, thought otherwise. Napoleon rode over the plain and surveyed the locality with a profound air, and in silence, nodded with approval or shook his head dubiously, and without communicating to the generals around him the profound course of his ideas which guided his decisions, merely gave them his final conclusions in the form of commands. Having listened to a suggestion from Devaux, who was now called Prince Eckmü, to turn the Russian left wing, Napoleon said it should not be done, without explaining why not. To a proposal made by the General Campan, who was to attack the Fletches, to lead his division through the woods, Napoleon agreed, though the so-called Duc de Lyon, Ney, ventured to remark that a movement through the woods was dangerous and might disorder the division. Having inspected the country opposite the Shevardino redoubt, Napoleon pondered a little in silence, and then indicated the spots where two batteries should be set up by the morrow to act against the Russian entrenchments, and the places where, in line with them, the field artillery should be placed. After giving these and other commands, he returned to his tent, and the dispositions for the battle were written down from his dictation. These dispositions, of which the French historians write with enthusiasm, and other historians with profound respect, were as follows. At dawn, the two new batteries established during the night on the plain occupied by the Prince de Eckmühl will open fire on the opposing batteries of the enemy. At the same time, the commander of the artillery of the First Corps, General Pernetti, with 30 cannon of Campan's division and all the howitzers of Desiacs and Friat's divisions, will move forward, open fire, and overwhelm with shell fire the enemy's battery, against which will operate 24 guns of the artillery of the Guards, 30 guns of Campan's divisions, and 8 guns of Friat's and Desiacs' divisions. In all, 62 guns. The commander of the artillery of the 3rd Corps, General Fouché, will place the howitzers of the 3rd and 8th Corps, 16 in all, on the flanks of the battery that is to bombard the entrenchment on the left, which will have 40 guns in all directed against it. General Sobier must be ready at the first order to advance with all the howitzers of the Guards' artillery against either one or the other entrenchments. During the cannonade, Prince Poniatowski is to advance through the wood on the village and turn the enemy's position. General Campan will move through the wood to seize the first fortification. After the advance has begun in this manner, orders will be given in accordance with the enemy's movements. The cannonade on the left flank will begin as soon as the guns of the right wing are heard. The sharpshooters of Moran's division and of the Vice-King's division will open a heavy fire on seeing the attack commence on the right wing. The vice-king will occupy the village and cross by its 3 bridges, advancing to the same heights as Murat's and Gibran's divisions, which under his leadership will be directed against the redoubt and come into line with the rest of the forces. All this must be done in good order, as far as possible retaining troops in reserve. The imperial camp near Mozhask, September 6, 1812. These dispositions, which are very obscure and confused if one allows oneself to regard the arrangements without religious awe of his genius, related to Napoleon's orders to deal with 4 points, 4 different orders. Not one of these was, or could be, carried out. And the disposition, it is said first that the batteries placed on the spot chosen by Napoleon, with the guns of Pernetti and Fouché, which were to come in line with them, 102 guns in all, were to open fire and shower shells on the Russian fletches and redoubts. This could not be done, as from the spots selected by Napoleon, the projectiles did not carry to the Russian works, and those 102 guns shot into the air until the nearest commander, contrary to Napoleon's instructions, moved them forward. The second order was that Poniatowski, moving to the village through the wood, should turn the Russian left flank. This could not be done. It was not done, because Poniatowski, advancing on the village through the wood, met Tuchov, there barring his way, and could not and did not turn the Russian position. The third order was General Campan will move through the wood to seize the first fortification. General Campan's division did not seize the first fortification, but was driven back. For on emerging from the wood, it had to reform under grape shot, of which Napoleon was unaware. The fourth order was the vice-king will occupy the village, Borodino, and cross by its 3 bridges, advancing to the same heights as Murat's and Gerard's divisions. For those movements, no directions are given, which under his leadership would be directed against the redoubt and come into line with the rest of the forces. As far as one can make out, not so much from this unintelligible sentence as from the attempts the vice-king made to execute the orders given him, he was to advance through the left through Borodino to the redoubt, while the divisions of Murat and Gerard were to advance simultaneously from the front. All this, like the other parts of the disposition, was not and could not be executed. After passing through Borodino, the vice-king was driven back to the Kolachka and could get no farther. While the divisions of Murat and Gerard did not take the redoubt but were driven back, and the redoubt was only taken at the end of the battle by the cavalry, a thing probably unforeseen and not heard of by Napoleon. So not one of the orders in the disposition was, or could be, executed. But in the disposition it is said that, after the fight has commenced in this manner, orders will be given in accordance with the enemy's movements, and so it might be supposed that all necessary arrangements would be made by Napoleon during the battle. But this was not and could not be done, for during the whole battle Napoleon was so far away that, as appeared later, he could not know the course of the battle, and not one of his orders during the fight could be executed. That concludes my reading of chapter 213. I will now proceed to my reflection on the same. A Year of War and Peace, Day 213. Amour propre. Pity poor Patroclus. He should have listened to his brother-in-arms Achilles. He should have heeded the words of his friend not to seek his own glory, but rather wait instead for Achilles to join him in toppling Troy. Nevertheless, the unquenchable thirst for accolade and the pride that sates it drives Patroclus to attack Troy, rather than to merely guard the Achaean ships, as he had been instructed. His hubris earns Patroclus initial victory over the attacking Trojans, but inevitable doom at the hands of Apollo and Hector before the gates of Troy. So it is with Napoleon. Today he rides with haughty self-assurance over the plains before Borodino. He nods with approval at what he sees, or he dubiously shakes his head, and, without communicating to the generals around him the profound course of ideas which guided his decisions, merely gave them his final conclusions in the form of demands. Tolstoy relates that Napoleon and his later historians attribute his generalship to proud genius. While it's true that Napoleon gains another victory at Borodino, just like Patroclus wins initially at Troy, it's also true that his victory, born of an astounding hubris, leads eventually to an ultimate destruction. So, while it is Apollo who strikes Patroclus insensible on the battlefield, it is, to borrow from Bonaparte's native tongue, amour propre that does him in. Daily Meditation. Put away the garments of vainglory, and divest yourselves of the attire of haughtiness. Bahá'u'lláh, The Hidden Words. All right, that concludes my reading of and reflection on chapter 213 of War and Peace. I hope you liked it. Thanks so much for joining me. Remember that if you'd like to support me, you can do so either by purchasing the ebook, A Year of War and Peace, becoming a patron at patreon.com, or making a one-time donation at PayPal. The links to all that are down below in the show notes. Tomorrow, we will be reading and reflecting on chapter 215. I hope you join me. Until then, take care of yourselves and others.